Long before the phoenix rose from Greek flames, before dragons guarded Chinese skies, before any king sat on any throne, there was a bird so ancient Persian poets said she had watched the world end 3 times. Her name was Simurgh, and once you know her story, you will start seeing her everywhere. In the next 11 minutes, you will discover the real story behind the most influential bird you have never heard of. Why Persian kings feared her. Why mystics believed she lived inside you. How her shadow may have shaped the phoenix, the roc, and half the mythical birds in human history. And by the end, I will show you why, 3,000 years later, she is still alive. Stay till the end. The final revelation changes everything. If forgotten legends fascinate you, subscribe. We dig where most channels don't. Now, let's meet her. Act 1. The bird who remembered the end of the world. Our story begins almost 3,000 years ago in ancient Persia, the land of Zoroaster, the world's first monotheistic prophet. In the sacred texts called the Avesta, written long before Greece had gods or Rome had emperors, there is a bird. They called her Sina, the ancestor of the name we know today, Simurgh. But she was no ordinary bird. According to legend, she perched at the center of the world, atop the tree of all seeds, a cosmic tree holding the cure to every disease that would ever exist. When she stirred her wings, the seeds scattered across the earth, bringing healing to every living creature. And she was old. Persian tradition said she had lived through the destruction of the world, not once, but 3 times. She remembered what humans had forgotten. She knew secrets no king could buy. To look upon her was to look into the deep memory of the universe itself. Persian artists pictured her as a fusion of every powerful creature they knew: the head of a dog, the claws of a lion, the tail of a peacock, the scales of a fish.
A note on depiction. In ancient Persian texts, Simurgh is described with the head of a dog and the body of a peacock. However, in most surviving artwork, especially medieval Islamic miniatures, she is shown with a bird's head, a later artistic reinterpretation. Both versions are part of her evolving legend.
Act 2. The bird who raised a hero. If the Avesta gave us her divinity, then the Shahnameh, the Persian Book of Kings, written by the poet Ferdowsi over 1,000 years ago, gave us her heart. Ferdowsi told the story of a warrior named Sam who had a son, but the child was born with snow-white hair. To his father, it was a curse, a bad omen. So Sam did the unthinkable. He climbed the slopes of Mount Alborz and abandoned his newborn on the cold rocks to die. But the baby did not die. The Simurgh found him, and instead of devouring him, she carried him to her nest, high above the world. She raised him alongside her own chicks. She fed him, she taught him. His name was Zal, and he would grow up to become one of the greatest heroes in Persian legend. When Zal finally returned to the human world, the Simurgh gave him her feathers. "Burn one," she said, "and I will come to you." And she kept her word. Years later, when Zal's wife was dying in childbirth, he burned a feather. The Simurgh appeared and guided him through what Persian scholars consider one of the earliest descriptions of a caesarean section in world literature. The child she helped deliver? His name was Rostam, the greatest hero Persia would ever know. The Simurgh wasn't just a creature. She was a mother, a teacher, a guardian of heroes. Act 3. Did she inspire the phoenix? Now here is the question I know you came to hear. Did the Simurgh inspire the phoenix? The answer is more interesting than a simple yes or no. The Greek phoenix was first described in detail by the historian Herodotus in the 5th century before Christ. And here is what most retellings leave out. Herodotus himself said he heard the story from Egyptian priests. The most likely direct ancestor of the Greek phoenix is actually the Egyptian Bennu, a heron-like bird connected to the sun god Ra. But, and this is where the story gets fascinating, Persia, Egypt, and Greece weren't isolated islands. They were three corners of an interconnected world. Trade caravans, conquering armies, and wandering storytellers carried myths across thousands of miles. And in that ancient exchange, the idea of a great, immortal, world-renewing bird appeared in every civilization that touched the silk and spice routes. So while the Simurgh probably did not directly create the phoenix, the way many websites claim, they are more like cousins than parent and child. But she belongs to the same ancient family of ideas: divine birds, cosmic memory, death and rebirth. And the Simurgh? She is the oldest cousin of them all. Act 4. The twist that changed everything. In the 12th century, a Persian mystic named Attar wrote a poem that would change the meaning of the Simurgh forever. He called it The Conference of the Birds, and nearly 900 years later, it is still considered one of the greatest spiritual works ever written. In the poem, all the birds of the world gather. They want a king, and the wise Hoopoe tells them their true king is the legendary Simurgh, who lives beyond 7 impossible valleys: the valley of the quest, of love, of knowledge, of detachment, of unity, of wonder, and finally, of annihilation. They set out, and it is brutal. Some birds die of thirst, some are eaten, some lose hope, some turn back. Out of thousands, only 30 survive. They arrive at the throne of the Simurgh. They are broken, they are barely alive. And what do they find? Nothing. No throne, no king, only a pool of still water. And in that water, their own reflection. 30 birds staring at themselves. Because here is the secret hidden in the Persian language itself. Si means 30. Morgh means birds. Simurgh, literally means 30 birds. The bird they had searched the world for was them. The divine they sought outside themselves had been inside them the entire time. It is one of the most stunning twists in world literature, and it is not just clever wordplay, it is the heart of Sufi philosophy. The journey is not to find God. The journey is to realize you were never separate from God to begin with. Act 5. Her shadow across the world. Once you know the Simurgh, you start to see her everywhere. But let's be honest about how far her shadow really reaches. The roc, the giant bird from 1001 Nights, the one that nearly killed Sinbad, almost certainly has Persian roots. Arabic storytellers borrowed heavily from Persian sources, and the family resemblance is unmistakable. The Russian firebird, the Zhar Ptitsa, emerged centuries later in Slavic folklore. Many scholars suspect her glowing feathers and magical aid to heroes were carried north along the Silk Road from Persian and Turkic storytellers. The connection is not proven, but it is hard to ignore. And the Garuda of India, the giant sunbird who carries the god Vishnu, she and the Simurgh share something even deeper, a common ancestor in the ancient Indo-Iranian peoples who split into Persia and India thousands of years ago. They are not parent and child. They are siblings, born of the same forgotten mother. The Simurgh is not the ancestor of every mythical bird, despite what the internet might tell you. But she is one of the oldest, most influential, and most overlooked threads in the entire tapestry of world mythology. And in the West, almost no one knows her name. Act 6. Why she's still alive. Here is the part most videos never tell you. The Simurgh is not a dead myth. She is alive today. Iran's most prestigious cinema prize is called the Crystal Simurgh. She appears on stamps, in national monuments, in poetry, in protest art. After centuries of empires rising and falling, after revolutions and wars and reinvention, Iranians still reach for her image, because she represents something deeper than any single era, a memory of who they are. Think about that. A bird first written about 3,000 years ago. A bird who raised heroes in epic poems. A bird who became a mirror of the soul in mystic verse. And today, still flying through the imagination of an entire civilization. Most myths fossilize. The Simurgh transforms. Maybe that is why she has lasted, because she was never really a bird at all. She was an idea. And ideas, when they are true enough, never die. So the next time someone tells you about the phoenix, about rising from ashes, about rebirth, about cosmic memory, remember this. That idea did not begin in Greece. It did not begin in Egypt. It echoes from somewhere even older. A bird who watched the world end 3 times. A bird who raised a hero. A bird who turned out to be a mirror. Maybe the real reason the Simurgh has survived for 3,000 years is because every culture, in its own way, has been searching for her. And maybe, like those 30 birds at the end of Attar's poem, what we have really been searching for was inside us the whole time. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe, because next week we are diving into another forgotten legend the world overlooked. And drop a comment. Which myth do you want investigated next? I read every single one. Until next time, keep looking up. You never know what is watching from the sky.